Chris, you all set? Okay, welcome everybody. Let's settle in. We'll get started. Got a couple things to review today, and we also have a guest presenter. So first things first, happy Super Bowl Sunday. For all you Giant fans, this has to be the worst day of your life. How many are going to boycott the game? All right, so, yeah. How many want the Eagles? How about what's the other team? Patriots? All right, let's go. Okay, so here's our agenda for today. I'm going to do some reminders, things that we've seen, observations since the last meeting. We do have a guest presentation. I'll invite him up after I finish. I want to remind you that I'm on board 6. I still have the interpreter link. There's a series of articles that I've written or posted. I want you to look at those from time to time. We also have the interpreter bulletin. Myself and all the other interpreters put this together every year. It's on there. We have archives of prior ones. So look at those because they have play situations that occurred in games through Connecticut since the season began. And we send that out to our members. We send it back to the coaches and ADs. And also, I just want to remind you about the IBO Sportorial. You should have just received it. And I want to give kudos to Bill McKernan, who had his second article posted in his Sportorial. Bill, thanks a lot. Now listen, for anybody else on board 6, if you want to write an article, prepare it, send it to me, we'll work together, and then we'll get it to the IBO, and you have the opportunity to have it posted as well, and you get paid. So take that opportunity. All right, who's this guy? Bill Boswell. I saw this in the West Hartford News and gave Bill a call. And if you look at the situation here, here's Bill talking with the Hall's growth coach. So I called Bill up and I said, well, what was this all about? And this was an interesting situation because his partner had just called a technical foul, maybe Bill called it, on the assistant coach, bench personnel. So what was her complaint? How come I have to sit when the technical foul is called on my assistant? Of course, that seems to be a logical question, right? But do you expect the coaches to understand bench personnel rules? No. So Bill had a tough time trying to explain that, coach, you just have to sit. That's the rule. And he may have said it differently, but interesting situation. So don't be surprised when you get that type of response. Okay, Chris Hawes, are you here? Here's our new IBO bag. Where's Chris Hawes? Chris, stand up. There he is. Okay, look at his bag. This is a self-designed from some website that Chris put together. It's got wheels and everything else. I sent it to the IBO office because I said, oh my God, is he kind of reaching some license with the locals or something? But we haven't heard back yet. But maybe we should adopt this for a bag in the future. Probably not. Why not? Anyway, that's pretty visible. I'm not sure if I want to be walking with a bag around the gym at the end of the game with that. Anyway, pretty impressive. Okay, kudo reminders. Positive things that we're observing that you're doing at all levels of game, because it includes me in terms of middle school games, watching some of our younger officials. Primary coverage area. I think we're getting a better handle on where the trail should be looking at and what the lead should be looking at. So keep working at that. Hand checking and body bumps. We've emphasized that over the last 3 years. Keep working hard. Get those hand checks and body bumps, particularly those that occur at the top of the key or in the front court where it's visible to everybody. It's tough to get those calls inside the 3-second lane, but where it's visible and you have it and you give that strong signal when you report it to the table. Verticality. Believe me, this has got to be one of our best calls. We're understanding the rule. We're not blowing it when we don't have to, when that player initiates the action. And we're rewarding good blocks, particularly in the women's game. And that's important because the women's coaches over the years have told us that you're not allowing my big girls to block shots. You're calling fouls. So we're doing a much better job on verticality. Communication with coaches, that's an important one to keep reminding each other. You don't always have to preach and lecture, but you should listen. And by communicating to coaches, by listening, that's just as important rather than trying to explain the rule. Because a lot of times they're going to look at you and say, I don't want to hear it. And you just got to walk away. Okay, but we're doing a good job communicating. All right, here's some reminders. High school mechanics. By the way, this is not just for college officials who may still be doing college mechanics during high school games. That's important. They shouldn't be doing that. But for our members who aren't doing college games, we still need to work on the eyeball mechanics. It's what we teach for new members. It's what we teach for ongoing members. And I'm watching more and more of that, observing through game films where we are or not doing it. So, for example, in signals, all right, the chopping of the clock, all right, to start a throw-in, it's there. That's the chop signal. It's not the fist. If we're watching college NCAAs, we're seeing college officials do that. They have the hand up and they punch. The NBA, hand up, they punch. Let's follow the idle mechanic, straight up, palm open, chop. Right down. Straight down. Okay? Simple thing. Now you may ask, what's the big deal, Pete? Well, it's what we're trying to teach. It's what makes us look good. It's what separates us from other officials. It's what's making you look sharp and your partner communicate with each other. Another signal that I think we're seeing, obviously, is people using this block as opposed to the signal here. Again, we should not be doing that. Okay, it should be hands on the hips, not the fist covered. Floor coverage. The one item that I think is becoming a pet peeve of mine, and I'm watching this in some of the films of varsity games, is when the team with the ball is dribbling the ball up the court. There's no backcourt pressure, and they're just coming up nice and slow. And our official is walking behind the play, and just walking. That doesn't look good. We should be ahead of the play. We should be hustling to get above the play, get into the front court, but still watching that player in case they do a double dribble or something stupid. But let's do the extra hustle to show that we want to be in that game. There's other floor coverage things I'm going to talk about today. All right, here's a rule that we probably don't think about much, and it came up only because it got presented in one of our games. The head coach of a freshman game, left the coaching box and went over to the table and wanted to ask questions about how many timeouts do they have left. All right? And so this rule here, which is in the book, only allows the coach, the head coach, to leave the box for those situations. Okay? Correctable error, a timing scorer, or AP mistake. So while the ball is live, a head coach could leave at any point in time there. It doesn't say anything about asking for timeouts. Traditionally, over the years, we've probably allowed that to occur. It's become more visible this year because of our new behavioral mechanic, or behavioral warning, where should we be teeing the coach for leaving the box, or should we give a warning? In this situation, this was a practice that has occurred. It's not in the rule book. It should not occur. And our official properly called a behavioral warning on the head coach. They were flustered by it because they didn't think that was appropriate. Now, in freshman games, you don't have assistants most of the time. Varsity games, you have 2 or 3 or 4 assistants, and they all have a certain role in the game. And I put that here for the assistant coach because the assistant coach has no status, basically, in the rule book. They can't stand at any time. They have to be seated. And then when they do, most of you, I think, will tell them, head coach, to sit down. They can't leave the coaching box at any time to go to the table to ask about any of these situations. That's not the assistant coach's responsibility. So there's not a lot of status for the assistant coach. All right? They help the coach at times. They'll ask you how many timeouts left during a dead ball. They'll ask you, where's the ball going to be put in play? So they all have their certain situations that they'll talk about. But let's be professional with them. If you see the assistant coach standing up, let's go to the head coach and say, Coach, we'll listen to you, but he or she must remain seated throughout that dead ball situation or during a live ball situation. So don't forget that. I'm not asking you today to come out and start throwing warnings and technical fouls at assistant coaches, but I want you to understand what their place is in our game. All right, primary coverage area. Disregard the word center. Oh, it does say trail. Okay, that's good. Two areas I wanted to focus on as things we need to do as far as floor coverage in terms of our mechanics. The first thing is backcourt pressure. Now what's happening, let's just say the ball is successful, it goes through the hoop. Our trail moves around the arc, around and down to the free throw line, or right here. That ball goes through the hoop. This trail new lead should be backing off right here in the backcourt, should be assessing if there's backcourt pressure. If there's backcourt pressure, you remain here. Don't go down here and get beyond the players. We need to be splitting the players. If there's 6 here and 4 here, we still want you in the front court. That first pass that comes over here, that's your sideline. That first pass in the foul, that's your foul. The lead has a tough time seeing across there. So my point that what I've been observing in games is when a backcourt pressure is applied after a team successfully scores, our trail is hightailing down here and is too far apart. Our rule of thumb, work within a half court apart of each other, but stay here and help your pressure, help your new trail. It's really important if you're on the bench side, because if that pass goes out of bounds and you don't have it because you're way down here, it doesn't look good. And the lead on this side can't look across. Another primary that I'm seeing, which I think we're missing, is the end of the quarter shot. All right, we need to be responsive. We need to be aware first that the clock is ticking. Not at 1 minute. At 1 minute, don't stick your finger up and say last shot. Get it around 20 seconds, 25 seconds. Just get contact with your partner. So now you know time is running down. So the trail, for the most part, is always going to have the last second shot. So if that ball is being released over in this area or in this area, what we want you to do is move towards the center of the court while keeping your eyes focused on where the shot is, and signal, if it's going to be scored, you may be going like this for a 3, and you're going to be right in the center here. So if it's good, you raise and chop, and you're looking right at the score. If it's no release, you're coming like this. So you're visible to the entire court. You're in this area. You're visible to the players, the coaches. You're visible to everybody. And what I find ourselves doing is we're dying down here, fouling the ball. Now, we would do that in any other regular try. We would come around the arc. But last second, make yourself visible. Get into the center of the court. To score it, to rule try, no try, and to score, no score. Okay? So these are the two I just mentioned. The new lead must split the players, and you're not really giving any help if you're running down beyond the players. And then the end of quarter 10. This is what we want you to do. All right, here's another new pet peeve of mine. And again, it has to do with where we are watching. And it's not critical in the sense of the game, but again, it's something that we want to teach as far as our mechanics. So this should say trail, but it doesn't. So here we are. This is the spot we want to be. Here's the elbow of the free throw line. This is the spot we want to be, 2 or 3 feet beyond the arc. I'm seeing too many officials lining up on the sideline. That's not the right spot. We need to be here because we have the free throw shooter and we have those 2 players there. On the release, we come down around and we line up right here. Because now we have the free thrower, if he or she goes off the line. But we also got to watch for this opponent who steps in and backs the free thrower out. The new rule change the last couple of years. So let's do this. I also see some of our officials starting here, but then they retreat to the center, to the division line, as opposed to going around and get ready for it in this spot. If you move to this spot, you're waiting for the ball to go through, you're now in good position for the backcourt press, and you're also in a good position in case the ball is rebounded to that side. So let's move down and around, start up above, and don't start here on the sideline. Continuous motion. Just let's review this, the rule. The rule states if the offensive player begins a try, okay, and an opponent fouls a off player, if I began the try even though the ball's not released, I'm allowed to continue my try. So the off official who may be blowing that foul can't come in and say, no try, because continuous motion is allowed. If the try begins and your teammate fouls, you're not allowed to continue. You're not allowed to continue that try. Okay? So the ball can't score if it goes in. You still may get 2 tries. There's a foul. If you're fouled at that point in time. So on the floor, we can have a try for goal that begins on the floor. That habitual movement that begins before we get the release. We may start our knees, maybe bending. We may be going up. If we're fouled here, but our feet are on the floor, we're still allowed to continue. That's still a try. All right? We got to be careful when we use words like on the floor. If we're dribbling and fouled and then go up, well then we've got a foul on the dribble before the try began. But if the try begins, let's stay with that and allow the try to continue. That's a tough one to get. It's a tough one for coaches to understand too, because they really think in many cases that once the player is on the floor, it's no longer a try, or never a try. Clock malfunctions. This occurs on 2 situations. The timer forgets to start the clock, or the game or the quarter ends too quickly, and where we have a whistle. So if the timer forgets to start the clock, we get together as 2 officials, and did either of us have a count going? Did we start a 10-second count, a 5-second count? If we have definite knowledge, then we can go and take that time off the clock. All right? Same situation. If the clock goes down to 0-0, and there was a whistle before the horn, and we know we had the whistle, then we've got to get together as a crew and decide how much time we're going to put back on. That could be a little tougher, particularly if the game's tied and one team wants a try. You put .3 where they can't get a catch and shoot. You put .4 because you can't go back. We don't have a replay monitor to use that. So just think about those situations when clock malfunctions and work together as a crew and come up with a sensible answer. Displacement in the post. I haven't seen this called at all this year, and it's not an easy one. Tom, get up. It's really the offensive player, and this is boys and girls, who's jockeying for the ball and is just pushing that defender out or just swinging the elbow like that. Okay, we're not calling that at all, and if anything, we end up calling a body bump on the defense. So watch for that play board. The trail has the best position to make that ruling as opposed to the lead, who may be caught up underneath. Lead depth. All right, there are some gyms that you can't get lead depth. Windsor, for example, there's no depth. You got to at least get to the wall. I was watching a game at Glastonbury. You can have a lot of depth, all right, and that's okay. So you got to judge where you want to be as the lead in terms of your depth. And for some games I've seen, watch when you creep. When I say creep, it's because you start out with great depth, but then that try goes up, and you start moving, you start creeping, and you're creeping, and all of a sudden, you end up on the end line, and you've lost your angle. So keep your depth as the lead. Blowout games. This happens in middle schools, right? It happens in all levels. It happens in middle schools. We can still learn from a blowout game. First of all, we got to keep our professionalism. We can't penalize that team who's still pressing up 40 points. It don't look good. It don't feel good, right? And you want to keep calling fouls on that team for doing something. But we got to hold our professionalism. Let the other coach deal with it after the game. Let's keep our mechanics, keep our switching, keep all that stuff going. But let's be conscious of not giving in and trying to change the game because we're pissed off at what's happening. And let's make it through the game. And let's see if we can still learn. I've been through a couple already, my partner and I, we tried to talk afterwards. What can you learn from that? And think about that, because it happens at all levels. Technical fouls, just a reminder, they do count to the team total. So if you have double technicals or an individual technical, and one of the officials is going to go to the table to report it on the player or players, someone, usually the non-calling official, should be reminding the other official who called it, did you tell the scorer to put it towards a team total? Because a lot of times the scorers don't know that. So it's a good reminder. That's why you get together after you call a technical. You get together and talk with each other, and then you decide who's going to report to the table, and you get through all that stuff. You calm down the other official who ruled that technical foul. Okay, rescinding a technical foul. I've kind of threw this on the table, and I've been asking a lot of officials, not only within Board 6, but also some of my colleagues that I know. Can we rescind a technical foul? Okay? Probably not. It will be rare in a situation to do that, and you'd have to have some strong rationale to do it. Okay? I can think of an example where if my partner ruled a technical foul that was on live ball and reported it to the table and never came and talked to me, I could go to my partner and say, wait a minute, that can't be a technical. It was contact during live ball. It has to be a personal intentional. So go back and you can pull that one off. All right? If you have a technical foul on a head coach and you're not certain about if he or she said the magic words, well then if you blew the technical because you didn't know, you can always go back and, if anything, apply the technical to the bench and call it bench personnel. So it's not to the head coach. He or she still has to take an indirect and sit, but you wouldn't want to rescind that. So keep that in mind. Let's not rush to call technical fouls. Remember, it's easier to get together and go from a personal foul to an intentional foul. It's easier to go from an intentional foul to a technical foul. But to come down, you got to be very careful about that. Hey, did I talk about mechanics? Did I talk about signals? Yes. Okay, just want to remind you again, don't forget, keep watching it. All right? You know what? When I'm doing this, and even to some of the varsity guys I've been watching game films on, I am getting picky. But I want us to be the best. I want us to be there. I want us to do the things we should be doing, because we have a lot of officials who want to get to where we've been, or where we are. And they are watching us. So we should be giving them the best as we can. And this is my major message for today. Let's not become complacent. You get to a certain level, you still can learn more. You can still get better. Let's not get complacent. Let's not walk up the court. Let's jog and get ahead of the play. Let's not walk to the reporting box. Let's jog to the reporting box. Does it have anything to do with your foul call? No, not at all. You know, the majority of the fouls that I've seen on video, 90% accurate. Not even questioning the fouls. It's more about the approach, the practical, the complacency that I'm starting to get concerned about. I just want our officials to know, because you're being viewed and your younger officials want to watch you, our role models. So do your best. Pretty straightforward. Ain't this the truth, right? Ain't this the truth? All right, so the word complacency, trying to change that there. I'm going to now move from, what's that? I want to keep going to our next one, because I'm going to take the complacency message. The word complacency begins with a C. And now I'm going to segue to our guest presentation. I've invited Ray Vanapour, the Board 10 interpreter, to come up and give us a presentation. And Ray's got a solid presentation that will review and remind us about certain things, beginning with the letter C. Now, Ray is not only an interpreter, but has become a very good personal friend of mine because of the time we spend as interpreters, not only in Connecticut, but also at some of the national meetings. Ray's also an author. He contributes to Referee Magazine. In 2017, one of his articles was the second most popular read by all the people who have access to Referee Magazine. So without further ado, I'd like to invite Ray Vanapour